Hello there, this is Roberto Matthews with another tutorial. Today we're going to learn how to do some complex SVG animations. Even though it says here CSS and SMIL or SMIL, we're going to only use SMIL today because sometimes if you mix and match the animation transitions between CSS and SMIL, sometimes you get timing issues. So it's better to either use all CSS or all SMIL. And since we're working with SVG, it's safer to just use all SMIL since it's getting deprecated, but I don't recommend it should. But because there are some things that CSS still cannot do that SMIL can do. But I digress. If you want to skip forward to where the animation actually happens, just make sure you go to this time code. Before that, we're going to talk about how we set up everything, which I think you'd be interested in. So this is what we're going to create today. We're going to run this. And basically the car comes up, our little workers come, and then we have the typed words coming like this. What I'm also going to show you is this is a version of it. Same thing, except that in this version, they all come in, same typed, but then they walk away and that walks away. And so I'm going to show you how to create this animation. Let's begin. So the first step is we're going to go to this SVG edit. Now, I particularly like this SVG edit for a few reasons. And one of the reasons is this all these objects that come out that they give you, all these SVG objects. And now I'm going to show you how this works. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to create the ground. So we're going to get a line over here. I'm going to press shift so that it'll stay straight. And then we're going to create our lift, which is just like that and just like that. We're going to fix all this in a second. And then we're going to create our car, which I believe it's right here. Okay. And then we're going to create our men, our little workers. And our workers are right here. We're going to make sure this is all to scale. So let's see. I guess if I were about this tall, about this big would work. And then I'm going to press the Alt or Option button and then click and drag and create a couple more guys. Okay. And then basically that's it. I'm going to create one more element, but I'm going to show you that at the end. So what we're going to do here is we're going to position our men, actually all of our elements the way we want them to be positioned. Okay. And as you can see, there's no fill, so we can see straight through this guy. So we don't want that, so we're going to create our fill here. And we're going to do that to everybody. Okay. And we want maybe one guy behind the car. So let's put this guy behind the car. And to do that, we're just going to press this button right here to go behind. And there we have it. So he's behind the car. Now the car also, you can see straight through it. So let's make this one solid, but let's give it a color. So let's maybe make it a little gray. And now it's solid. Okay. So let's move all these guys out of the way for a second. Let's make this deck right here a little bit thicker. So we're going to make this just a little thicker. And since this is going to hold up the entire weight of the car, we're going to make this a little bit thicker also. Okay. And then since this is the boss here, we're going to give him a different color. So let's give him a fill of red. And then these guys here, let's give them some blue. Maybe that color right there. Okay. And so now let's align everything. So we're going to align this with this. Oh, and before we do that, let's go ahead and name everything. So we're going to give this the name of car. We're going to give this the name of lift. And this is the bed. And then this is the lift pole. Let's just call it pole like that. And then we're just going to say man 1, man 2, man 3, and man 4. And then we're going to call this the floor. Okay, so that works. So now let's go ahead and line everything up. So we're going to go ahead and bring this down. I'm pressing shift to go by larger increments, but you can go by single increments here. So we're just going to bring this down like that. Now we want to line these up together here. I'm clicking and dragging on both of them, and we're going to align them, and we're going to group them. So we're going to click here to the group elements. We're going to name this group lift, and we're going to put this in the center here, and we're going to put this in the center also, and we're going to bring it down until it touches the lift. Okay, and then we're going to place all our men. So let's line them all up, making sure they're all lined up to the floor here. Very good. And so we're going to bring these 3 guys over. Notice they're all behind, so we don't want them all to be behind. We want this guy in front. Maybe this, let's put, yeah, this guy a little bit far. Let's see, let's put this guy also in front. Put this guy behind. Oops. Put this guy behind. Very good. And then this guy is in front also. Let's realign all these guys here. Okay, very good. So that's kind of what we're going to, oops. That's kind of what we want. So we don't want this entire floor to be here. So let's go ahead and bring this over like that. Very good. Oh, we also have to bring all this down just a little bit so it could touch the floor. Very good. Now we need to know, we need to be able to type the text. So we're going to put the text in a certain position. So let's go ahead and put the text right here. We're going to call this text text draw or text type, just something like that. Okay, so now we have that. Now what's really cool is that we can come over here to SVG edit. We can say document properties, and we can say fit to content. When we click OK, we have the content all set up here. Okay, so now we have all this, but we need a little bit more headroom here. So we're going to go back here to the export. I'm sorry, to the document properties. We're going to go to the height, and let's make it by 100. So 329. And that gives us a lot of headroom here. So let's bring all this down by clicking shift and down and make sure that it's touching right on there. And now we have a lot of space. Okay, so now that we have this all set up, we're going to click on the SVG here. And now this is our SVG code. We're going to select all, say OK. Oops, sorry, forgot to press copy. So select all, copy, say OK. So now we're going to bring it over to our HTML. We're going to click paste here. Now we have the SVG, but it's not responsive, which is one of the great things about vector graphics, the fact that it's scalable. So to make it scalable, we're going to take this width and the height right here, and we're going to create a view box that starts at 0 and ends with a width of 476 and a height of 329. And then now we can take all of this height and width and delete it. We run it again, and now it's only restricted by the size of our screen, or if you want to put it inside of a div and restrict the size of the div, you can do that. But there you have it. Okay, so now that we have all this set up, we can go ahead and begin coding our animation. So whether you skipped to this part or not, thank you for watching so far. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe for more coding and more animations. And please leave a comment below on any type of animation, SVG animation that you'd like to see, whether it be logo animations or anything like that. I'd be more than happy to help you out with that. So we're using Chrome. And the wonderful thing about Chrome and most like Firefox or anything like that is that we have an opportunity to see where everything is and work on the transform visually. So that's what we're going to do. This is going to be the end result of our animation, save for the text that we'll talk about later. And so we want to figure out first where everything is, or where, how, the ending result of everything. Okay. So right now, the transform of everything is at 0 because this is where we set up everything. This is the final resting place of all of the animation. So what we're going to do first is let's first of all work on, let's say, the boss. See the boss here, he's going to come in first and he's going to bring in the 3 workers. Okay. So what we're going to do is everybody's going to come in from the right towards the left. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out first where he is or where he's going to come from and put him to this position. So we're going to be using this a lot. So let's go ahead and go to our selector here. And we're going to select our man. And then we're going to say transform, translate. Okay, so now we have our translate. Notice if we translate our y coordinate here, once it goes outside of our viewport, we cannot see it, which is going to be a great advantage of bringing things in. But we're actually not going to work on the y position. We're going to work on the x position. Okay, so I'm going to click shift to move by a bigger amount here. Okay. And so now we're going to go by smaller amount. I'm releasing the shift button. And we notice that to move him out of the frame, we have to translate him by X, 433 pixels. So let's look for man 1. We're going to go transform equals translate. And we don't have to put the pixels in here. We could just say 433 and 0. So when we say run, he's gone. Okay, so that's now going to be his starting state. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing to one more so I can show you how that's going to work. So let's select this man, which is man 2. We're going to do transform, translate. We're going to bring this to 0 because we don't need to move the y, but we do need to move the x. I'm going to press shift to kind of bring them to the edge, and then 194. So now we're going to find man 2. Do the same thing. Transform equals translate. And we say 194 and 0. Okay. Now I'm going to do a little bit of movie magic, and we're going to move all of these guys out of the way. Okay, so now that we've translated all of these, we've transformed the men, you'll see how we're going to bring them in. Now, you do have 2 options. You can go ahead and use CSS transitions and animations in order to bring them in. But the issue that I have with CSS is that it doesn't use seconds. It uses percentages and things like that. And it's very hard to calculate everything and to manipulate things if you want them to go faster or slower. So this is where SMIL comes into play. So let's go ahead and show you how I use SMIL. So I'm going to do animate. Now I have a snippet set up for my animations, but I'll show you how this works. We're going to do animate, transform. And so now we're animating our transforms. Okay. So now the ID is the identification of the transform or of the animation, which is going to be great for syncing because you can sync by the ID. This link right here is links to what you want to animate. So in this case, we're doing man 1. The attribute name, the attribute that we're going to be targeting is going to be the transform. Okay. You can target the, it's always going to be transform. The majority of the time it's going to be transform because that's what you're animating. Now, what you're actually translating, or I'm sorry, what you're actually transforming is going to be the translate. Now, this can be the scale, this can be the rotation, but in this case, we're doing the translate. Okay. Now, obviously, we can begin right away by doing 0 seconds. And again, this is the reason in a second, I'm going to show you how using the ID is going to be the star of why I use SMIL. The duration is going to be, let's just do 1 second for now. Now, here's what we're going to do. We're going to go from the transform of man 1, which was the translate of man 1 was 433 by 0. Now, all we have to do is go to 0, 0, because that's the end situation. That's the end state of our man 1. Then we're going to say fill, freeze. Now, this is the same as in CSS when you do forwards in the animation, which is it'll end and stay where it ends. Okay. Otherwise, it's going to go back to the beginning after it finishes the animation. Okay. So let's go ahead and press run. And there you have it. That's where he is. Okay. So now all we have to do is what we want is we want this guy to come. And as soon as he comes here, we want the 3 other guys to come in. Okay. So all we're going to do is we're going to copy this. We're going to go to man 2. And basically all of this is correct, except we want it to happen after this animation is over. We could say to begin at 1 second, and that would work. Okay. But watch this. Let's go ahead and start it at 1 second. Obviously, let's change the ID to A2. And so he starts right after this guy. But what if we wanted to begin at 1.4 seconds, or what if we wanted to stagger it a little bit? That becomes a little bit harder to do, because what if we change this first one to half a second? Then if we change this to half a second, then we have to make sure we change this to after half a second. That's no good. So to make one relation or one relate to the previous one, what you do is you begin after A1 ends. And so you can say after A1 ends, it's the same thing. So let's run this. And he starts right after A1 ends. And that's going to help us stagger everything, because we can say after A1 plus 0.4 seconds. And so it's going to wait till A1 ends. It's going to wait 0.4 seconds, and then it's going to start. And that's how we're going to stagger everybody. So he's going to start. We're going to do 0.4 seconds. Okay. So let's go ahead and do the next one. Say copy, paste. I'm going to name this one A3. This is also man 3. And he's going to do after. And we're going to do like stagger. So we're going to do like maybe 0.5 seconds after that. Okay. And then we're going to do copy, paste, the 4th guy, which is the last guy. And then we're going to do maybe he waits another second. So 1.5 seconds. He's a little straggler there. Okay. And so now we're going to run. He waits a little bit, and here comes the guy straggling in. Now, notice they came a little too slowly. So that's easy to change. We're just going to go to man 2, man 3, and man 4. And we're going to change this to half a second. And since we're dealing with actual times, it's much easier to work with rather than with CSS, you'd have to do everything with percentages. Beautiful. That works out very well. And we're not going to wait so long for him to come out. So we're going to do 1/8 of a second. Beautiful. Okay. So now we have everybody coming out. Now, before this happens, we want the car to come in and be lifted by the lift. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, and then I'll show you the power of being able to use SMIL and be able to animate everything no matter what order the animations are in, and you don't have to do a lot of math. I'll show you how that works. So let's say, okay, now that we have them coming in, we want this animation to happen first. So first thing we need to do is go back to our selector. We need to select our lift. Let's go up 1 because that's just, yeah, so that's, here's the whole lift. We're going to do transform, translate. This time we're going to translate on the x-axis. I'm sorry, on the y-axis. So we're going to bring this all the way down until it's just outside the level here. So 84. So again, let's go to lift. Here's our lift. Transform, translate, 0 and 84. Okay, so we know that's going to translate that for us. Okay, now with the car, it's a little different because with the car, we have 2 translations going on. So transform, translate. So now we know we're going to bring this all the way down to 84, but we're also going to bring this over. Let's press shift so we can go by bigger steps like that to 370. Okay, so when we go to our car, we have 2 translation. We have 2 things that we're translating. So transform equals translate. And then we said 370 and 84. Okay, there we go. So let's run this. Oop, what did I do wrong? Let's see what happened. Transform, translate. Oh, always helps to type everything correctly. Okay. So now we want the car and the lift to come up. So this is what's so great about SMIL. Let's do the animation again. Here's our animate transform. We're going to call this, we already have an A1, okay? So we can put this at the beginning and call this all in order and kind of try to move all these over, but that doesn't matter because we can go ahead and call this animation A5. We're animating the lift. Transform, translate, okay? We want to start this right away. Okay, we're going to do that for 1 second, and we're going to go to 0, 0. Okay, now we have that. But now we want to make sure that the guys don't come in until the lift goes up. Watch this. Instead of at the beginning saying A1 starts right away, we can say A1 starts after A5 ends. And everything will stagger since it's dependent on the previous thing. Boom. Isn't that wonderful? We can do the same thing with the car, but you have to be careful with the car, because with the car, which is A6, you cannot, and we're going to do this at 0 seconds, or we can do this with A5 begin, right? Because we're going to start with the lift, so we're going to do at the same time as A5 begins. So we say 1 second duration, but if we do 0, 0, then the car is going to do this weird thing. We don't want that. We want the car to come in and then be lifted up. So we're going to make the animation transform here, this ID, to begin at 1 second. So we're going to begin after 1 second. So let's do that. See that? Okay. So now we're going to have this begin at 0 seconds. The car begin at 0 seconds. We want it to be the very first thing. Okay. So now we need it to do only one thing at a time. So we want the Y to stay the same, but the X to go to 0, right? So let's go to the car. And our translate are these two numbers. So let's copy these. Okay, so we want our X to be 0 and this to be 84. Okay, so now that we have that, we have to make our car go up. So to make our car go up, we just need to zero out the Y. So now we're zeroing out the Y. We want this to be our 7th animation. We want this animation to begin after the previous one, so A6 end. We want it to be 1 second, and let's see what happens. And then the guys come out. Now, let's say we want, this is perfectly fine, but now we want this to happen a little bit after these go up, okay? So we go back to our first man. Don't forget, everything, all these guys are dependent on this guy. So we want this first guy, man 1, to start maybe almost half a second after the car goes up, okay? And don't forget that A5 is the lift. So when the lift finishes, we want them to come up after. So we're going to run. And right after they come out, they come out. Now, as you can see, that's the power of SMIL. Being able to change how fast things happen because you have dependencies of one and then the other. Everything's working with seconds. It's really easy to start your animation because of the SVG edit. So we have everything working. Now, we need to be able to type out our words. So let's go ahead and go to our information here. Now, here's our line. We forgot to do one thing with our line. We won't be able to type on this line. We have to create a path. So for this one here, we want to change it to path. So this is the button to change to path. But we don't want to have to copy all of this all over again. So what's great about this is we can come all the way down here, just select the path that says text type here, select all of this, copy it. We can go to our line here, paste it. Nothing's changed. It's still the same thing, except now it's a path. Okay, so there we go. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to redraw this path. Okay, so let's go ahead and we call it text type here. So we're going to draw the path. Now, we don't need an animate transform for that. I have another snippet for animate. Animate is similar to animate transform, except that we don't need an attribute. We don't need a type here because it's not a transform. So what are we going to, we're going to call this A8. Okay. We're linking to, what are we linking to? The text type. Let's link to that. Okay. And this is an ID, so we're going to do that. The attribute that we're going to be modifying is going to be the decode. So we're going to redraw this line. We're going to take this line code. Now, a line code is very simple. We have where the pen starts, which is 25.5, 103.5. And then this L right here means that the line is going to end at 418.00, 478 and 0. Okay, it's a straight line. That's why it doesn't have any y-axis. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take this here. We're going to copy this. We're changing the decode to this. Okay, we're changing it to that. So we're going to begin. When are we going to begin? At the very end of everything. So we're going to begin after the car goes up. Okay, so let's do it A7 end. Okay, the duration, let's make it 2 seconds. And we're going to freeze. Okay, so now, since we're starting there, we're going to do this 0, 0, just like that. Let's run it. Notice there's no line. And there we go. Now, it's starting after the car ends. We want it to start after man number 4 ends. So let's go see where man 4 is. This is man 4, which is A4. Let's go here and say A4 end and see what happens. That's much better. So now this line is going to be where our text is. So let's go ahead and put the text on the line. So how do we do that? Well, like that. Okay. And inside the text, we're going to do text path. Okay. So text is just a wrapper here, but we're going to put the text path, which is going to be, we love cars as much as you do. Okay, just something like that. So we're going to run that. And there you go. Now, we don't want to have to deal with this animation all the time, so we're going to go ahead and turn off the animation just for the time being, so that we don't have to keep seeing where our animation is. And we're going to take this stroke here, and we're going to make this like 500, just so we can see where everything is. Okay, so here's our line. Now, the line is supposed to be this. Let's copy that, so it could be a little bit more accurate. I'll show you why in a second. Okay, so now we have our line. Okay, there's our line. Now we want to put our text on the line. Now, to put the text on the line, here's the text path. Here's our text path. So to put our words on the line, we just have to link it. So xlink href equals text type. So that's just telling it to put it on this text type path. We're going to run that. And here is our text. So now what I want to do is I want to make this text just as big as this line. So again, to do that real easily, we're going to select our text. There's our text. We're going to do a font size. We're going to do 1 REM. And then we're going to just bring it up here. So it looks like, so I'm going to press Alt here so we can go by decimal. And it looks like it's 1.8. Okay. So let's go ahead and put 1.8 for the font size. So we could put that on the text. Font size equals 1.8 REM. So let's run that. Beautiful. Now, this is what's going to be cool. When we have no line, no stroke, okay, when we have no line, we have no text because the text is dependent on the length of the line. So now when we animate the line, we have the animation of the text. Okay. And so like just for right now, let's go ahead and put this at 0 so we don't have to keep waiting for the text for the entire animation. So there you go. Now let's take away this line. So all we have to do to take the path away is we have the stroke here. Where is the stroke? Here's the stroke width. You could either do the stroke width to 0, or you can just say stroke is none. So let's do that. And now we have the words just typing up, because even though the line has no color, it's still being drawn. And we're going to go back down here and we're going to go to the begin here. And we said it's A4 end. And we have our entire animation. Very good. And so to do the reverse, you just keep adding animations. You'll say animation transform. We're going to transform and we can put our guys out doing the same thing. All you have to do is do it in the reverse. Let's just have, for instance, just this first man. I'm not going to do the entire thing, but I'm going to show you how to do it with this first man. So after everything is over, so let's do an animate transform here. Copy. So we want this to happen after. We're going to call this A9. And we want this to happen to man 1. So we're going to begin after everything is over. So after A8 ends. Okay. His duration is going to kind of come out at 1 second. Now, where is he going to? Well, we go back to man 1. We've noticed that his original translate was this. So we copy that down and we bring this over to here. Okay. So now what's going to happen is everything's going to draw out. And then he's going to move away. But we don't want him moving right away. We're going to wait till everything ends, and we're going to wait, let's say, 3 seconds. And then he's going to move away. And there we have it. And of course, you can stagger everybody out to do the same thing. Have this come down with the car and have it move in the opposite direction, right? So that's how I do my animations, my complicated animations. What's great about this is that the text, all of this text is very, very small. It's just regular text, which draws all of this. It's also very responsive, which means it'll work on a cell phone or anywhere, actually. And SMIL, let's go to Can I Use? And SMIL, except for IE, can be used on just about everywhere. Okay? So if you don't need it to be an animation like that, you can do a GIF capture. That way you can press run and then capture it on a GIF and make it either a GIF or make it a video. And that way it'll work on IE as well. So if you have any questions, please let me know below. Once again, I'm going to add the SVG edit link below. And if you have any questions or would like to comment on any type of other animation, SMIL animation, logo animations, let me know and I'll be more than happy to help you out. Have a wonderful day.